you can see a little Ely Cathedral in the distance, and I'm sitting with my back to my ancestral home. My dad used to call it the ancestral home. It's in ruins, still there, and this was the view that my Granny Hatch would have grown up with, except I suppose there might have been more hedges and trees when she was young. And that earth, that black earth, and those really big skies is what made me a painter. Most definitely. The black, flat earth, the open space, the very dynamic skies, and that stuff at the bottom of the painting is Burnt Chimney Drove, which is where the ancestral home is. And this is in my my compass that I've got on the table here. This is the east. This is an ear of wheat from the 10 acres of land that my Granny Hatch inherited when her father died. Her brother got the farm, and she got 10 acres of land. And this is a grain of the crop that was growing in that field last time I went, and so that is representing the east for me. It made me a painter. I became a painter without knowing that I was a painter, because as a child you just do it. But the thing is, what it's done for me is I actually form a relationship with the land wherever I go. I actually travel to meet land. It's an awful thing to say, but I don't travel to meet people very often. I actually travel to meet land. It's interesting, isn't it? And all through my life, you know, I've had experiences of, you know, meeting the Grand Canyon and meeting Antarctica and meeting Route 66, you know, and all those kind of things, and I never forget them, these wonderful experiences. But what my current interest is, you asked me about the shamanism thing, is that I'm now going down and wider. You know, I'm not zipping along motorways, partly because I don't feel that it's appropriate at the moment, you know, with the climate emergency, to be zipping around, you know, anyway. But I have a longing to belong to the patch that I'm standing on. So, and that can be anywhere, you know, that can be absolutely anywhere. So what the Fens taught me was a way into relationship with landscape, and I've never lost it. And I'm very grateful for that. I actually don't feel as if I need to go back there to die or anything, you know, or to live even, you know. I don't need to be anywhere. I'm at home, you know, where I am. So that's good. Works just as well, really.
So Francis, just talking about the directions and so on, do you
Yeah.
make some sort of a ceremony as you to prepare yourself to paint, or I mean, is there some sort of ceremonial consciousness in going to paint or putting yourself there?
Yes. Now what I think happens historically has happened is that I've been doing stuff without knowing I've been doing it. You know, I've been I didn't realise I was any different to anybody else in relation to the landscape. I didn't realise that my particular connection was any different to anybody else's. Because one is the way one is, really. But through meeting up with other people who have had experiences of ceremony and of relationship through generations and generations in South Africa and Botswana and places like that, you know, you think to yourself, my goodness me, you know, there are ways to actually intensify this, you know, to actually really acknowledge it. So simply spoken, you know, my journey from home to my studio now has become part of my practice. It is a trekking territory, so I leave my bungalow in Weymouth and I walk along the Rodwell Trail, which I don't actually find that easy to connect with. But as soon as I get onto that strip between Weymouth and Portland, that narrow strip of maritime scrub either side of the road, then I stop at the sign that says Portland Commons for 10 minutes. I will orient myself and I consciously walk into that threshold and I pause at 2 places on the way, and when I leave that area then to go past Lidl, actually Lidl has become part of it now, funnily enough, and the Shell station, and actually, you know, I feel that the whole journey now to the studio is part of a sort of practice. So yes, it's becoming more curated than it ever was, but for years and years, you know, my family will know this, you know, that I have booked myself out of family life a few times a year, all the way through, you know, and I go off and I commit a week or a fortnight or whatever it is, and I completely dive in to being with that place. Don't ever draw the curtains, you know. I live with the light and the dark and the sounds and the season, and I couldn't do work like this, you know, with just in any kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's all time that's been set aside.
Does your connection with the land have anything to do with your farming ancestry? You've got farmers.
Well, there are lots of hatches in Middleport, in the fens, I now realise. And certainly on my father's side, they are farmers, and I still own that 10 acres of land. Yes, Granny Hatch's Mills Field. I still own it, and my father ashes are scattered on it. You know, so I have a real sense of that place as being absolutely where I began. I don't need to end up there, but I began there. I grew out of it. I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with farming. I think it's more ancient than
not
that.
necessarily farming.
No.
That fact that your forebears have worked with the soil, with the trees,
Yes.
have to be very aware of the weather. The
Absolutely,
skies are going to
yes.
tell the when it's going to rain.
Yes.
Whether that had anything to do with it, who knows? I mean,
Well,
I don't know.
People a few generations back were very, very tuned into signs of weather, weren't they?
Yeah.
And of course, the East Anglian Fens has just unadulterated winds from Siberia coming straight across it. And you know, I still miss that in Dorset.
initially sort of trying to sort of capture what the view in front of you, or is it your response to it that you're trying to capture, or just see how it develops? I mean, do you sort of start with a more formal, here's the, horizon line and...
Well, funnily enough, I'm not an abstract, but you can see I'm not an abstract painter. Place, topography of place, cliff profile is important because, a cliff is the shape it is because of the nature of the materials in it, isn't it? The Golden Cap, sort of steps of Golden Cap, is as it is precisely because of the nature. So I am called to be observant and to be accurate. But I get caught up in almost as if I'm working with, I'm on a stage set and there are loads of different actors and stage props and things. And I'm in the middle of it. I'm in relationship with it, I'm in conversation with it, I'm a guest. But I get caught up, and when I get caught up in something, I don't know what I'm doing, and I do my best work when it's too dark to see what colours I'm using. There's one marvellous moonlit night in a wood, and I really didn't know what colours I was using in the end, and I did this amazing opera pink sky. And it was a fantastic painting. I would never have done it if I'd been in full control of my...
But that's when the painting is making demands on you.
Yes, it's lovely.
And it's got its own...
life.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, that's a marvellous moment, isn't it? When you begin something and then it begins, then there's another person involved because there's you and a bit of paper, and at some point it becomes alive and it starts to require things of me, and it's another player. It's magic.
But that's bloody difficult when you're returning with a work that hasn't been resolved properly for the second time, to get into that again.
No, I just can't wait to get into it. I love it.
You can find that more or less straight away.
I can get right back into it. Yeah, it's just something that I want to do.
And how do you know when you're finished?
That's a good question.
I don't necessarily know when I'm finished sometimes.
Can you overwork something?
Yeah, I ruin things lots. Yeah. Sometimes the conditions change to such a degree that it finishes itself. The session ends, and I have to end with it.
Going back to the magic moment.
Yeah.
Do you feel you're like a channel, and just it's sort of pouring through you?
I lose myself.